to cry here.
Yes.
We're moving on to the onions.
Yes. Well, we have several different kinds to use, but for the larger onions, I like to use the grid method. And I start by removing the end. You can use whatever knife you want, and I peel a little of the onion as it goes, like some of that peeling easily came off. Now the stuff that's coming out is the sulfur-infused stuff, the stuff that makes you cry.
Yep.
You can see it down here on the board. And so I'm going to go ahead and take the other end off, and I'm going to cut my onion in half, unless I was going to make onion rings. So that would be a different process entirely. And then I'm going to go ahead and peel it and lay that cut side down, because that helps get the stuff out of the air that you're talking about. So you don't want to do it. Now, some people tell me if you just run the water in the sink while you're cutting the onion, that really helps.
Soak it up.
I don't know if it's true. I've tried it. I think a lot depends on the onion at the time.
Right.
So basically, we're just trying to keep the juices away so they don't get in the air. And when you cut through them, that's kind of what happens. And we're going to make a grid. This is our grid cut. And I'm going to just take the knife, come down through the onion like this, because you see the onion is divided into these little layers, so it sort of has done part of the work for you if you need chopped onions. So next time someone asks you, you can willingly say, sure, I'll do that. No problem. So
you have your cheat sheet right there.
Well, it just makes it go great. And so then we're here ready, and we've got all these little squares, and so when we cut, we're ending up with the diced onion just like this. So it makes it a lot easier.
Wonderful.
So
that was easy, and I didn't
that was
cry
so easy,
at
yes.
all.
And sometimes you'll want linear pieces of onion. You could do the slices like this for burgers. And while the round ones are pretty, I sort of like these done like this because they're easier to put. I love onions, and so I like to put them on the burgers like that. And you know, if you get an onion that's very strong, you can actually soak it in the refrigerator in some sugar water. Just put a tablespoon or two of sugar in a little bowl of water and sit this cut onion down in that and let it just marinate in that sugar water. It really helps the onion breath situation. And sometimes you want little linear slices like this for if you were making onion jam or something like that. So this onion just enables you to just start cutting down like this. So you've got all sorts of different
shapes
cuts
and
like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, perfect. And the green onions I like to just take the ends off. These have sort of been cleaned up. And what I do is take that into 4 segments. And sometimes you'll see a little debris or something in there, and you want to be sure that you've washed them carefully in the preparation and pull some of the outer skin off just before you start cutting. Well, now what I've done is shortened the time it's going to take me to cut it. I have I've taken those 4 little stacks, and I love the tops of the green onions in salads and in some dishes. They're very nice in soups and things like that. When they're added at the last, you get this little oniony crunch to it, and it's perfect. Now, the other thing I'm doing that I didn't tell you, Angie, is when you're cutting, do a forward slice like this. It makes your knife so much more efficient, and it also gives you more control.
Well, look at
and
that.
I can almost look at you
Wow.
and do. I don't
She's
advise
brave.
you to do that
Yeah.
to start with, but it does a great job, and so that's the best way to cut onions.
Wonderful. Okay. All right, so we're moving on to
tomatoes.
Start over. Okay. You good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, we're moving on to tomatoes.
Yes, and this is great with tomato season approaching to know how to do this. First of all, the best cooking tomato is the tiny Roma tomato, but sometimes the few seeds that are in it can kind of get in the way. So I like to just cut through it, and I don't particularly like that part. So I'm just going to do like this and get the seeds out. And do the same over here.
Nice, easy way.
Yeah, and that part, while that'll cook down, the seeds, if you're doing a fresh tomato sauce on pasta or something like that, that's not going to be as exciting with all this little debris in there, but yet this is the good part.
Yeah, definitely. I love
So you could take these if you wanted to, if you were grilling, and if you're making salsa, I would say to take these out and put them on the grill just like this.
Nice.
Yeah, and then they're kind of roasted, have a little charred effect on the outside, and then you can let them cool, and you have them for the next day or two. You can just cut them up and put them in a salsa, a nice chunky salsa. And then, of course, you just cut them sort of like we did any of those things.
Okay.
And there you have it.
Well, look at that.
For that. And, if you were taking a salad to a picnic or something, you might want to do the same thing on this type of tomato or even the other kind, because then it's not going to get all soggy, and you've got the meat of the tomato, and that's why these are said to be, the Romas are said to be the great cooking tomatoes, because that meat is and skin is the nice flavor. So it's all ready to...
Now here's
ready
a little
to
more
go.
Typical tomato.
Yes, a little more typical. And what I like to do on these is simply I take that little part off. Now, some people, in the middle of the summer, if you have tomatoes in your garden, in the Oklahoma garden, sometimes that skin can get a little bit tough. And so some people don't like it. I typically do not remove the skin because I think it's a great source of fiber. But again, the grid approach on the tomato is great. This just takes no time at all. Yeah. And notice I'm using this same little razor sharp paring knife. I love this thing for the same thing. And then I can just, now this is a good one, like if I were making a salsa, it would be nice to have my board with the little groove around the edge, because then I could pour that in the bowl if I was making a fresh salsa. All the juice that comes out of that. So we have these nicely cut, I mean, it takes no time at all to cut up the tomato.
That's great.
And so that's a really nice thing to do. And you can make the grid smaller. You make the little pieces smaller. So it's a great thing to do for a salad, quick salad. Oh yeah, that's it. And so that's what I would say about the tomatoes. Yes.